This is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. Today I have a layout that I made using the July My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. This month we got this amazingly gorgeous collection from 49 and Market in the kit. Lots of papers and embellishments, lots of other goodies as well, and I absolutely loved working with this kit. This is one of 7 layouts that I made with the kit this month. This layout is using this beautiful piece of paper that is primarily orange, and I feel like that's a color that, unless it's Halloween, I really don't work with too much, but I really enjoyed using this piece of paper. Both sides of every single piece of paper in this kit were really beautiful, and although I knew that I wanted to use this side of the paper, I also liked the other side of the paper. So I used my Creative Memories circle cutter, a very large one, and I cut a circle in the center, and then I flipped it over to use the other side. Since I cut into that circle when I cut around the butterflies and some of the flowers, the circle has some missing spaces in it, and I'm going to fill those in just a moment. Now I'm using the same Creative Memories circle cutter, and I'm cutting out some big white circles. I'm going to use the smaller one to mount the circle and the other pieces of paper that I pieced together behind it for the pattern paper in the center of the layout. And then I cut out a slightly larger circle, and I plan to use this behind that circle as a mat. Now, I didn't cut it out very well, but I knew that the cut line that I made would be covered by the other circle, so I just went ahead and used it. I figured, why waste paper? Luckily, the back of this pattern paper looks a little bit like a patchwork with lots of different designs on it, so that made it very easy to use some of the other elements that were in the kit from the ephemera pack to piece together and make a complete circle. So I picked out some of the pieces that I thought would match well with the color scheme, and I used some adhesive and I attached them down to that circle. I'm using the white circle that I cut out as a guide to help me know where to place all of the pieces and to use as a template to trace around. And then I just went ahead and used my scissors and trimmed off the excess papers that I had added to the circle. And I ended up being happy with the results. I think that it was great that there were some little pieces of paper that I could fit in there without cutting into another piece of pattern paper. So now I have that circle all done, and I'm going to attach it down to the white mat that I cut out earlier. As I'm voicing over this video, I realize there's a little bit of ink or adhesive or something on one of my pinky nails, and it's really bothering me right now, but it shows you how I don't even notice things as I'm creating. I have a mess all over. I have a smudge on one of my fingernails, and I don't notice. I just keep going. That's kind of like my creative trance. I inked the edge of the pattern paper circle with some vintage photo distress ink. And now I'm using some ATG adhesive and attaching the circle down to the white mat. I'm thinking that that circle is done. I do go back in a little bit and make a change to it though. I really like the idea of having those butterflies and those flowers overlapping the circle in the center of the layout. So now I'm going in with my detail scissors and I'm trimming away some of the extra paper that's around the butterflies and the flowers. Somewhere along the way, I picked up these Martha Stewart detail scissors. I don't remember when I did that, but I came across them the other day, and they're quite good for fussy cutting and getting into small areas. I'm sure there are lots of great scissors for that. These just happen to be the scissors that I have. I inked the edges of the butterflies with some black ink, so the Distress Oxide and Black Soot, because the butterflies have a lot of black on them. Then I fit the circle in the center of the layout, and I realized that I needed to make some cut lines along the edges of the flowers and the butterflies that were protruding. That way the circle would fit in there a little bit more comfortably. So this did help the circle to fit into place, but after I fit it into place, I took a little break. I came back the next day, and I didn't like the white circle. So I decided that I was going to switch the circle out for a black circle. And this is when I feel like the layout kind of started to come together. I really like the way the orange looks with the black. It just makes a more dramatic look to the layout. I don't think that the white mat looked bad. I just like this a little bit more. To help that circle stay in place, I used a little bit of Scotch tape on the other side. I love this butterfly, and I thought that it would stand out a little bit more if I added some black lines to it. So I'm just using a regular flare pen, and I am going over some of the lines along the edges of the butterfly. I just really wanted it to stand out a little bit more. And then while I was at it, I decided I would add some black lines to the smaller butterfly on the bottom of the layout as well. I don't often doodle on my layouts, but I really think that the black was helpful with drawing a little bit more attention to the butterflies. Now I'm doing something that I almost never do, and it didn't end up working out for me exactly the way I wanted it to. So I thought I'm going to be using a 4x6-inch photo, so why don't I just go ahead and make a mat for a 4x6-inch photo, and then I could mat it on some black cardstock and pop it up, and when I decided on what picture I wanted to use, I could just add it right to the layout. So that's exactly what I did. I'm putting some adhesive on the back of the foam, and I'm placing this in the center of the circle. What happens is I end up not using a 4x6-inch photo. I use a slightly smaller photo, and I will talk about that in a minute. So in the end, I had to recut the white mat and recut the black mat, and I had to peel the foam off of the back of this original mat and put it on the new one, and I had to place it down on the layout again, and it really didn't take that much time. It wasn't that big of a deal, but in the future, I'm going to choose my photo before I make a mat for it. And I usually don't make a layout or get this far in the process of making a layout without having chosen a photo. This was kind of unusual for me. But now I'm using the embellishments that are in the kit, and I'm spreading them around the layout. I put a lot of the flowers and the other embellishments along the outside of the black circle, and I'm tucking them behind that circle in most cases. And then I also add a few embellishments to the circle itself. I have some butterflies in the upper left hand corner. I have some tickets and a tag in the upper right hand corner. And then I have my title right under the photo area that says Pure Joy. And to add a little bit more to the title, I'm using two tags and I'm layering them on top of each other, just slightly offsetting the two tags so that you could see the yellow underneath. For one of the butterflies at the top of the layout, I was thinking that I wanted to add some black to the edge of it. It wasn't really standing out since I've already put the outline around those other two large butterflies that didn't have a lot of black. This butterfly didn't stand out as much, so I grabbed my Sharpie. This time I'm using an actual permanent Sharpie marker. Before I was using a Sharpie flare marker. I don't think it really makes a difference. You could see that marker off to the left. I liked the way the dark line looked around the outside of the butterfly, and then I decided to add a few more lines on the inside of the butterfly, and then I did the same thing with this smaller butterfly. It already had black around the outside, but there was a little bit of a white border, so I went in there with the marker and I made that black as well. And you could see there that I added some other lines to that small black butterfly and then added a couple more to the butterfly at the bottom of the layout. Now I'm using some Distress ink in Vintage Photo, and I'm inking the edges of all of these die cuts and fussy cut pieces that I have on the layout. As I ink each of these pieces, I do consider other places that I might prefer to put them. So you might see that some of these die cut pieces and ephemera pieces jump around the page just a little bit after I'm done inking all the elements on the page. I really like those deep red flowers at the top of the layout, and I was thinking that it would look nice to emphasize them a little bit by adding some foam behind them. So I add a little bit of fun foam, little rectangle to each of them, and then I attach them down right where they were before. I popped them up, and then I found some leaves and I put a green leaf on either side of them. And I like the way that makes a little focal point for the top of the circle. For the title, Pure Joy, there was a fishtail on one side of the banner, but I thought that it might look better if there was that same fishtail on both sides of the banners. So I went ahead and cut into both the one that says Pure Joy and the yellow banner that's behind it, backing it. And I have to apologize to you that the footage here is not as clear as I would like it to be. It is a little frustrating. I always focus my camera before I start working, but for some reason, every once in a while, there will be some footage where it's a little bit blurry. So I'm very sorry about that. It does clear up. So now I have the two banners layered on top of each other with some foam behind it to give it a little bit of dimension. And I wanted to add some embellishments to the title, so I add a butterfly to the left-hand side of that red flower. I have a couple more leaves, so I thought that I would add those to the layout to kind of balance out some of the green that's on the bottom right-hand side. For the tag at the top, I thought it would look nice to put some black twine through it and then tie the twine in a little bow. I didn't want to add too much black to the layout, but I couldn't think of another color that I thought would show up as well as the black would, and it's a very thin twine, so I thought that it ended up working out. I am now stamping the date of the photo. In my old age, my vision isn't as good as it used to be, so I had to get really close to the layout to get that date on there in the right spot. I used one of the tabs that was in the kit, and then I decided that I wanted to add some white splatters just to the outside of the layout, not too many, but I like the idea of having some white splatters around the outside. And to do this, I use some watered down white acrylic paint, and I keep rotating the layout because I like the part of the layout that I'm putting the splatters on to be fairly close to me. That helps me not get the splatters all over the place. And then after I added the white splatters, I wanted to add some black splatters too, but not too many black splatters, just a little small sprinkling of them. And although there's nothing like naturally splattered paint, sometimes I want to have some splatters in particular places, and I wanted to add just a couple more all around the layout. I didn't want to risk having too many of them. So I used the straw that's inside the container that holds the paint, and I just dabbed it around the layout. And by changing the angle of this little straw, you can make small little dots or slightly larger dots. And I do this to try to vary the size of the dots. I don't want them to all look the same. Now I'm ready to add my photo to the layout. I had to reprint the photo. I had a 4x6-inch photo that I ordered through the mail. But when I looked at the photo, there was a person off to the left-hand side, and even though she was in the background, she just commanded too much attention. She was looking right into the photo, and it just really detracted from what was happening in the foreground. So I reprinted it and I cropped her out a little bit on the left. Sometimes I think it's really important to look in the background, which is what I should have done when I originally cropped the photo. So I zoomed in a little bit, I reprinted the picture on my Canon selfie, and all is well. This is the second photo from this occasion that I've scrapbooked. This is a photo of my older daughter with a tattoo artist. Her name is Ryan Ashley, and she later became extremely popular, but my daughter had been following her on Instagram for a long time, so she was really excited to meet her, and she said that she was super nice and very cool and very pretty. If you've been with me for a while, you may know I have a little mini obsession with adding photo corners to my pages. I used 2 yellow and 2 orange photo corners, and I'm inking the edges of all of them with some distress ink, and I put the 2 yellow on opposite corners and the 2 orange on opposite corners, and then I always use ATG adhesive to attach these down to the layout. And I really like photo corners because I think they add a finishing touch, and I like the way they add a little bit of the colors of the layout to the photo. I used some white enamel dots and I put them on all of those red flowers that are on the layout. And then I have some black jewels and I add a medium-sized black jewel to each of those 4 photo corners. I had a small piece of yellow paper underneath that date tab that's on the left. I wanted to have that yellow there to balance out the yellows on the page, but with the photo corners, I didn't think that I needed it. I added one more line to the butterfly at the bottom of the page, and that completes this layout, and here are the close-ups. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. I really enjoyed working with this kit. And if you're interested in the My Creative Scrapbook kits, you can take a look in the description box where you'll find the link to the My Creative Scrapbook website. I hope that everybody has a wonderful day, and I will see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.